I've said I was gonna do a forest machine video at some point, and here it is. I've been tracking some small leaks. This might be a bit overkill on an old machine like this, but it's nice when it's clean. If it's something minor like a hose or a seal on a coupling or something simple, I like to fix it. Even should it be something like a valve block or something that would require a lot of wrenching, I wouldn't bother. But I would like to confirm, because the block here that handles the cab tilt, that one has a drop or so hanging, and the block in here under the hydraulic tank, I've been here before because it was leaking quite badly and I kind of messed up a little, but more on that later. And also the block for the crane has some drops hanging from it. It's not any bad leaks, but still it would be nice. So some brake clean, compressed air, that's what I have to clean with. It works quite well if it's not too bad. I also bought a UV light because I was trying to see if I could track any coolant or air conditioning. Some of the fluids they put in that, or gases, might have some traces. They show up under UV light. I'm not sure if anyone can confirm that. Couldn't find anything really. I looked at other places also, but I haven't checked on top of the cab yet, and I'm not even sure it would show up. So with things cleaned up, I added some powder. This is just wheat flour, something that will make any small leak show itself a lot easier. That was done to all the places I suspect have leaks, and it's not perfect, but realized I had forgotten to turn off that extra main switch, so voltage was a little low, so it was put on a charger when we were supposed to do a test start, and that had to wait until the next day. So I changed my focus on the forwarder. The inverter for the laptop we have fitted to it had died this at the end of the season, so the last little bit we just charged the laptop that actually held its charge for a while, but it was annoying that the inverter wasn't working. So, and it was not very old, so, and it made funny sounds from the start, and then all of a sudden it started sounded really bad. So I did a warranty claim and it was honored, so they sent me a new one I'm installing. And I had to loosen that shelf because we have kind of hidden the power supply for the computer under there, so it's a little annoying, but I was hoping I wouldn't have to do this every now and then. But that wasn't very hard, so that was kind of an easy fix once the bolts were back in place. Back to the harvester, it was fired up and we could start checking the spots. I could confirm that this 90-degree angle back here seems to be from the elbow, not the big adapter that's on there. On the crane block here, I could confirm a couple of more hoses leaking a tiny bit from the press fitting, and also a couple of the I think it's regulators. There are 5 of them on there. Back here I couldn't really confirm anything, so we'll see. I've tried to patch a few leaks, so hopefully it was just leftover oil on that. After a little bit, the drop was hanging on that smaller nut that locks the angle on the elbow, and here that big hose at the bottom could be confirmed that it seeps out a tiny bit of oil from the press fitting, and 2 more hoses further higher up, and then those regulators. It's actually just 2 of them that I confirmed, but there is like 5 of them, and there are just a couple of O-rings, so decided to replace them all. I've also seen a couple of hoses out to the harvester head. One is looking really bad and seems to be a little moist. In here under, you can see that regulator sticking out, and there are a couple of more higher up, so they're a little hard to get access to. And I've had things apart because I've confirmed some of the adapters that kind of comes out of the valve block was leaking, so I had most of that apart a while back, so it was annoying I hadn't found these. Also would have been very good access. And two of the hoses here feeding up to the block, I've confirmed has a tiny leak from the press fitting, like so many other hoses on these machines, but probably old age and high pressures. So I'm gonna replace two more. I've replaced a couple of the others already, so but replacing all the hoses gets very expensive, so I try to confirm that they are actually leaking, even if some of them look really bad. If they still do not leak, they are perfectly dry, I keep running them. So a little bit of an oil bath, getting everything undone. This big fatty down here was a bit of a struggle to get undone. That side was easy. This end sits into another block, and that kind of is just bolted onto a plate, so you can't really put a lot of force into it. So I had to resort to two wrenches and a third one for leverage, and it came undone. They usually give up. So put in some of those oil plugs, because I just brought these. I'm sure I could find them in the parts manual and get the length and all of that, but I just brought them in to be measured, and then I could get hold of new O-rings. Tricky getting these regulators out. Three of them, the little small O-ring at the end broke as I tried to take it off, so I guess those three have not been touched in a very long time. Two of them, the small O-ring came undone without breaking, but I replaced a couple of O-rings. Is very little money in the equation, so while I was there I replaced all of them. Did them one by one to not mess up the order of them, and put some hydraulic oil on the new O-rings and carefully put them into place to not damage them, and then back they went. Hard to get any video from in under the hoses, so but yeah, bucket of oil down there to catch what was drained from the hoses previously, so did the regulators before the hoses for so I had a little better access, and then hoses could go back in place. New hoses, these two were quite easy, they are not super stiff or so on. I also confirmed a small hose that was quite long and connects this crane block to, I think it has to do with giving a request to the pump for more oil, and it connects to the block back that controls the cab, and I was hoping I could pull it through the center of the machine, but realized there were more like belts holding things in place down there under the cab. So I had purchased a coupling to connect the old hose with the new hose. This one I've checked out in the manual so I could get the correct length without undoing the old one first. So cab had to come up. Looked a little extra at these rubbers for the cab mount, because apparently Komatsu themselves can't even get hold of them right now, because I would like to replace them. Eventually had I missed, but I can't really record under the cab anyway. missed when I undid the belts down there, but it's just 3 of those like luggage straps with a cam lock. So, but once the small hose was in place, the big fatty could be bolted in place. Had my dad help because this was a bit of a pain to get it to line up. But it was on there without too much trouble. Had also had to undo a small hose to get access to undoing it, and here I'm back under trying to rearrange the small hoses in their correct orientation, and then tightening up those straps holding it in place to not have any issues, hopefully. And remounted the plastic protection on the bundles of hoses. Then time to tackle the 90-degree elbow in here, and no video of that. I will just explain, because I had been in there before, but I had the wrong seal on it, just those 3-dough washers, like a washer with a molded on rubber, and it should be like a ring and then an O-ring inside of that, as it is, and I had added a little bit of tread sealant to it, so it was a pain to get it all the way out this time, so that was a little annoying, but eventually it came out and a new one could be fitted. Then I'm gonna replace some of the plastic protection here, especially the part that goes out to the harvester head itself. That's in really bad condition, but I'm gonna replace one of the hoses out there also. Took a break from being under the hydraulic tank. Had dropped the tool down there, but was lucky I could fish it out without dropping the skid plate, so but eventually I had to resort to the crow's feet and extensions, and luckily I didn't have to undo the big adapter, just a 90-degree elbow. So the hose I decided to replace up here, there are a couple of more that look quite worn, but they look really dry, so they will live a little longer. This one that have quite a substantial damage on it and seems to be weeping a tiny bit from it, I'm replacing. They add up and get quite expensive when they are this large, so might be good having the others last a little longer, hopefully. So first one, new hose could fit it on there, but I kind of had the wrong twist on it, so I had to start before tightening things up, kind of making sure I had it in the correct orientation. This one had kind of a nut part to it where you could twist it. I didn't have to resort to clamping on the press fitting, but it's a little mismatch getting my dad to understand what he was going to do to help out, to kind of hold it as I re-grabbed. And he has the, I'm not sure how well he hears me either when he has the hearing protection on. So I start screaming a little, but eventually we had it where we wanted it, could start tightening it up so it wouldn't twist on us, and then did the same on the other end to get the correct bend to it. So wasn't too hard, just a little bit of struggle. And with it in position well enough that I was happy, it was just a matter of tightening the couplings up. Here you can see one of the bad hoses going out to the harvester head itself, but it's bone dry even if most of the rubber is worn away from it, so I'm going a little bit cheap on adding. And they have had this protection on them also, but it's been worn away, and if you use pieces of it, they kind of want to slide out of position, so I purchased longer lengths, so it will reduce the risk of them sliding out of position until they are worn apart at some point. So I guess that's what happened, and I've just added some stumps they have had laying around at some point. So it was a little bit of a struggle, kind of forcing it all the way up to the very end. The more you have on it, the less likely you have that it will slide around, and The big plastic protection on this section I'm reusing. It was in good condition, but the next section going out to the harvester head I'm gonna replace. And held in place by a small shackle at the end that was tightened back up. Also find a tiny leak in one of the bogies. This rim has a little oil in it. Adding some more protection to this hose. This one is also worn and it has kind of been pinched in one spot there. It's kind of a little bit of oval. Had I seen that before I started wrapping it, I would probably have replaced the hose, but too late now. We'll keep running it for a little bit longer next summer. Hopefully it will last the winter, upcoming logging season for me. And to finish things off for now, wrapping that big protection over all of them was a bit of a struggle. The old one was very stretched out and worn, and it's made out of several pieces bolted together. The same with this other section, but here I have one that's full length for the entire thing, but it's a bit of a struggle getting it on there and all the way up, but eventually got it. Turned out the hole where the little shackle has to go through needs to be made a little bit bigger, and I just used a hand file. I didn't bother bringing out power and some rotary tool to open it up. It didn't need a whole lot, so hopefully cured a few small leaks. So we'll see. More ranching will be happening before the logging season starts, even if I had bark beetles and other things I'm struggling with.